Okay, here we go. Chickens 101. What kind of chicken do you want? If you want chickens, what kind of chicken do you want? What do you want them for? Do you want them for meat? Do you want them for eggs? What do you want them for? Okay? And where are you going to get them? Do you have any ideas? Are you going to call a hatchery? Are you going to look through a catalog? Are you going to look online? Are you going to go to your farm store, to a friend, to a neighbor? There's lots of places you can get chickens. You can get chicken eggs even and incubate them. When you're looking for chickens from a hatchery, you need to consider some things. You need to think about where these hatcheries are compared to your home. How far do the chickens have to travel? I mean, they're brand new babies just born. And yes, they can go for up to 3 days without being fed and watered, but the closer you can get them to home, the better. But make sure you get them from a reputable hatchery. Let me say that, okay? You need to know the minimum order that you can order. I mean, do you want 50 chickens? Do you want 100? Do you want 25? A full box is 100. So a quarter box is usually what a small homesteader would get, but there's usually a fee for going with smaller amounts. So you need to check that out, as well as the shipping fees. I got a whole list of stuff here, you guys, so I'm hoping not to forget anything. Look at the reviews, and if you can, check out the hatchery on like YouTube. Check it out so you can see if they treat their facility right, if they're a clean facility, if all that good stuff. You know what you're looking for, hopefully, and if you don't, that's another point. Before you even think about getting chickens, get a book on chickens. You need to learn some stuff. If you're going to take care of a live animal, you need to know what you need to be doing to provide them the best life they can have. Whether it's housing, food, being aware of illnesses that happen, whatever it is, you need to be ready for it because you're responsible for the animal. And especially if you're going to be eating the eggs from it or using the meat from it for your family's food. You need to think about those things. Anytime I ever want an animal for anything. When I got rabbits, I got a book on rabbits and I read them. When I had quail, I had a book on quail. I read it. The goats, I studied forever on the goats, because if I'm going to be responsible for an animal, I better know what I'm doing. And if I don't know what I'm doing, which I don't know everything when it comes to goats and these animals, but you know what? I have backups. I have groups that I'm engaged with on Facebook, and friends that have had animals, the goats for years and rabbits for years. And if I got a question, I know I can get an answer. Also, make sure you have a good vet, somebody that you can go to, you can call, make sure they're familiar with you, and if something happens in the middle of the night, you can get to them. But back to the chickens. Okay, here are some hatcheries, in case you're wondering. Murray McMurray, they are my favorite. I have never had a bad chicken from them or bad service. They are, I would say, the #1 hatchery, in my opinion, okay? Then you have Meyer, Stromberg's. They are both good hatcheries as well, fabulous. You have Cackle, Ideal, Whelp, Townline, Purely Poultry, Jinx Hatchery, J&M Hatchery. That's just some. So you can go online and find different ones around you, or some farmers that are close by or whatever. Then you also need to decide, do you want full-size chickens or do you want bannies? Because bannies are little chickens. They're like a third of the size of a regular hen or chicken. But you know what? I love them. They're cute. They're little. They are busy all the time. They're fun to watch. The only thing about bannies is you have to be careful with the roosters, because the roosters have a tendency to get pretty aggressive. So, I mean, you can coddle them a lot, and sometimes it still doesn't matter. But like I said, it depends on the breed. So that's another thing. Whole nother thing, but we'll get to that. Okay, if you get your chickies from the farm store is getting them from these hatcheries. And you might be able to get them a lot cheaper if you buy them from the farm store. Sometimes those chickens have been through a lot and they die quickly. Sometimes they don't. So you really have to coddle them and take care of them when you get them from the farm stores. I would say TSC usually has the best chickens. I have seen them take care of their chickens. They had a year where they tried something new, but they reverted right back to the old. They're pretty on it when it comes to taking care of animals like that. So kudos to TSC. But you can get them from different places online too. I mean, there's My Pet Chicken. You can get on there for that. There's different places on eBay. You can get chickens, or you could buy eggs even from eBay and Amazon. You can get eggs on Amazon to hatch. Let's see. Eggs. Yep. You decide what kind of eggs you want. I like brown eggs and blue eggs. I have one chicken that gives me a white egg. Well, it's kind of a cream colored egg. She's supposed to be an Arcana, but like I said, when you get stuff from a farm store, you really never know what you're getting. So she was kind of in there with the Arcanas, and that's what we got. So I love her anyway. We're going to talk about incubation and if you get eggs. If you get eggs, you're going to have an incubator. If you're expecting to have chickens long term and you want to have chickens and incubate your own eggs, make sure you have an incubator. Get a good incubator. Don't cheap out. Get a good one. It's going to last you quite a while. Mine does. But let me just say this. You can incubate eggs just about anything, because when I started out, to tell you the truth, I had a tortilla warmer. I put a cheese dome over it. I put a hole in the side of it for a thermometer, and I put a shot glass in there with water, and I incubated 8 well-summer eggs that I got from Texas. And I'll tell you what, every one of them hatched. So just gotta know what you're doing and read and make sure you're aware of what's happening so you know how to do this stuff right. But anyway, get a good incubator, okay? Then when you raise your chickens and you start getting eggs yourself, then you can incubate your own as long as you have a rooster. And that's another thing. A lot of people say, how can you have eggs if you don't have a rooster? Well, a chicken lays an egg. It just might not be fertile if there's not a rooster. If you have no rooster, your eggs will not be fertile, just so you know. But you may still have eggs without a rooster. No problem. She's going to lay. Okay? All right, incubators. You need to know your humidity for your incubator. You need to keep your incubator's humidity around 30% usually. And your temperature for your incubator should be at 99.5 to 102. I usually keep mine right around 100. That's generally where I keep mine, and I always have a pretty good hatch rate. But it takes time to get there. When you start out, you're not going to have very good hatch rates, unless you're lucky. But it takes time to learn this kind of thing, and it's a diligent work. You have to watch it every day, pay attention to your humidity, make sure your temperature is right. And just because the machine says that it's 99.5 or it's 101 doesn't necessarily mean it is. So you need to be checking that as well. But if you spend a good amount of money on a decent incubator, usually it's right on. All right, let's see. It takes eggs 21 days to hatch. Put them in there, and then on day 18, you want to take them and set them, which if you have an egg turner in there, you want to take them out of the egg turner. If you don't have an egg turner, you're going to have to move your eggs probably 3 times a day. You just roll them around about 3 times a day. But if you have an egg turner, it does it itself. It kind of has a shelf the eggs sit on, and it rotates like this all day long, and so they rotate. But on day 18, you want to take that out of there and just set your eggs on the bottom of the incubator, and they'll sit there for 3 days and they'll start hatching. When you do that, you want to raise your humidity to about 70%. Okay? Then after you get your little boogers and they're all hatched out, which don't help them hatch, if a chicken is not healthy enough to get out of that shell itself, you might not just want to mess with it, just let it go. I know it's hard to do, but that's just the way it is. That's kind of life. If it's almost completely out, but you're not paying attention to your humidity and it got low, you could try to help it. It might survive, but usually they don't. And don't ever try to just pull the shell off of some of these little eggs that just start pipping, because it may not be ready. It may have not soaked up all that yolk, that nutrition that it needs, and it'll rip the cord on it and it'll die. So anyway, just don't do that. It's kind of sad when that happens. Let's see, what else? When you have your chickies and they are born and you need to get them into a brooder, you need to make sure your brooder is warm enough. You need to keep it at 95 degrees, and you can lower your temperature by 5 degrees every week. But you could go a little bit more advanced on that if you want them to feather out sooner. I don't generally do that. Take the time that they need to do what they need to do naturally, just bring that light up a little bit. You just raise the light up a little bit every week and have a thermometer down there and make sure you get it right so the temperature only changes 5 degrees. Because if you do more than that, they could die. They also, the chickies do not like a breeze going on. a cool breeze or anything like that, wind in the air, movement like that, it doesn't fare well with the chickens. You also want to make sure that whatever brooder you have them in, though, they do have fresh air around them. Don't put them in like a tote or tub that's deep and all that ammonia is getting in there from their waste, and that's going to kill them. Okay, that will kill them for sure. So you have to empty out your bedding all the time, keep it clean. You have to make sure there's some kind of heat source, whether it's a lamp. You can have a forget what they're called, it's a wall plate. You can put those in there. They're pretty good. And they also have like a plate that the chickies can get under that sits about this far off the ground, but you can adjust it how high you want it. You can raise that up too as time goes on and as they get older. And then pretty soon they're not going to need it at all. But anyway, there's lots of options there. I think you could get one of those at TSC for like $44, just so you know. Brooder Space. You want to make sure that you have a brooder that doesn't have corners, if you could all help it. You want to make sure that it's kind of rounded, so like a trough would be good. Like at Rural King, they have those. At TSC, they use a trough. It's all curved edges, so nobody's going to get stuck in a corner and everybody's going to pile on top trying to stay warm and kill the ones on the bottom. Basically, that's the idea. Let's see, what else? Oh, your waterers. You want to make sure that if you're using a water that you have a jar on, that you can put rocks down in the bottom of that, or you can put marbles down in the bottom of it, something so that the little teeny weeny little chickies don't accidentally fall in there and drown, or get squished in there and drown, get rushed in there and get wet, and then they just kind of fall in there and can't get up, and then they drown. So you keep rocks in there, or the marbles in there, and they can still get the water around those, but it doesn't allow them to get in there and drown. That's another thing. Okay, let's see what else we got. Okay, feed and protein for your chickies. Chickens, the baby chicks need to have 20% protein. They need to have that for at least 7 weeks, and then you can change it to 17 or 18% from 7 weeks to 18 weeks, and then over 19 weeks you can go to 16%, which is basically what a layer feed would have. Also, you need to decide on whether you want medicated feed or non-medicated feed. So that's another thing to think of. And when you're ordering your chicks, you also need to think about whether you want them to be vaccinated or not. There's a lot of different viruses or diseases that a chicken can get, and I think that they vaccinate for Merrick's and another one, maybe Newcastle, I don't know. But anyway, you can opt to get that, and it's not very much, it's like 10 cents a chick usually. But that's up to you and what you decide. But again, you need to read about it so that you're aware and educated and can make an educated decision for your birds. About the feed again. Let's see. In wintertime, we always give our chickens corn in the evenings because it's really cold at night, and that helps keep them warm through the evening, through the night, to the morning. We kind of put in just not a whole bunch of corn. We don't really give them a lot of corn because they can quit laying if you give them too much. But a lot of times the egg layers will quit laying through the winter anyway. Some people have really good luck with their chickens and they keep laying through the winter, but I think it all depends on what chicken breed you have, so you need to think about that too. You can look up online easily a chicken breed and how many eggs a year that chicken breed will lay, or what the normal is for that chicken breed to lay a year. Some can lay 250 to 300 eggs, some lay 100. It depends on whether you want chickens for friends, or you want chickens for eggs, or you want chickens for meat, whatever you're looking for. There are birds that are just for meat, and there are birds that are dual purposes. They are used and have been used for centuries for eggs and meat. So you can use them for a while for eggs and then go to meat if you need to eat something. And then there are some that are just really good egg layers. Like your Rhode Island Reds, your Plymouth Rocks. Those are really good egg layers. And if you're not worried about, eating it, you're not looking for a meat bird, those are good options. Barred Rock's another good one. They're good foragers. They're feisty little birds. They run around and they're happy. They're full of energy and they lay really well. You can just about guarantee you're going to get an egg from them most days of the week. Water. Your chicken water. when they're babies, you can put electrolytes in there if you want. Just make sure you don't put too much. I do that if I have birds that aren't real healthy. If I get them from some place that they seem like they're just kind of lethargic, acting like they're just not, you know, healthy like they should be, I'll put some electrolytes in the water. But other than that, just make sure you give your chickens fresh water every day, especially if you're, you know, for your laying hens out there. Every animal should have fresh water every day. And if you do that, you're going to have healthy chickens. A lot of people will put apple cider vinegar in their chickens' water every day, which helps with a lot of things. So look into that as well. It's a practice that a lot of people use, so check that out. Space, you should have 4 square feet for a chicken. So for your housing, you want to make sure that you have that amount of room for them. This here is a little building that my brother-in-law put together with some scrap stuff that he had, and then he was going to get rid of it. And we just had moved in here and we didn't have a chicken house. So we went to this. We just said, okay, I'll take it. I brought it home and I painted it. They can get underneath and they can get on top. And it's about 4.5 feet wide and 4 feet deep. We have 9 chickens here. So there's my Will Summers. Will Summers are my favorite. They lay a beautiful speckled egg. Check it out. They're gorgeous birds. I love them. And they're always happy and they're docile. And that's another thing. You can get chickens that are pretty aggressive. You can get chickens that don't want to be around people. You can get chickens that love people. You know, you just have to read about the breeds and see what you might like. A good starter bird would be a Buff Orpington or any of the Wyandotte breeds. The Wyandottes, they have golden lace Wyandottes, silver lace Wyandottes, blue laced red Wyandottes. They've got, and the same with Orpingtons. You can get a blue Orpington, you can get a lavender Orpington, you can get gold Orpingtons, you can get white Orpingtons, you can get black Orpingtons. Like I said, you need to get a book. You'd be amazed at how many different kinds of chickens there are and how beautiful they are. But anyway, this is one option. And if you noticed, I have this here, which is called hardware cloth. We use this for the rabbits, but we have it on here, down here, because I've had chickens for 30 plus years. And I'll tell you right now, when you go have little baby chickies and you go put them in a hen house, or you can put them in a hoop house, and I'll show you one of those next. A raccoon or possum, anything, can grab a hold of their little legs and their wings and pull them right through this stuff. They can behead them. They reach right in there and grab them. In the summer, they like to lay up against here and be cool in the breeze, the chicks do. And they'll just grab them and kill them like that, no problem. So we always have this down here at the bottom. I'll show you a hoop house, which is what we started with way back years ago. Okay, this is a hoop house. This is like one of the easiest kinds of houses you can make for a chicken, I think that there is. This is basically a cattle panel. You can see this, it's a cattle panel. Put on a 2x4 frame, and we put this 2x4 across the middle so they can perch on it. We framed out the door here, and we used an old window screen from an old house as the door here. Now down here again, if you notice, hardware cloth. I have hardware cloth about 2 feet up, and then the chicken wire. We covered this all with the tarps so that through the winter they would be out of the water and have no snow on them or rain on them. This is the low spot in our property, and sometimes it floods, and it'll flood about, probably about to 20 feet from here. It's never gotten over here, maybe about 3 feet from here it's gotten one time. But we always make sure that we have someplace they can get up high. And Delilah, our duck, stays in here with Trudy, our Silky, which is another breed I just love. And they're really good brooders. They're breedy mamas. They will set your eggs, no problem. Anyway, so we have these bales of straw in here. Of course, Delilah can just float in the water. She doesn't care. But if she wants to get up here, she can and get out of any kind of water that comes. And Trudy can do the same. She can come up here and then get on this rung here. But Trudy's been real broody lately, and she's been sitting under there and trying to set on Delilah's eggs, but we have to take them away from her every day. But anyway, again, safety. You know, we have to make sure that outside animals do not get your animals. If I can get underneath here. Also, this door, in the summer, we put a piece of board across here so that animals you know, coons and stuff can't get it here. The raccoons get them here. But we have a latch here we can put on the bottom. We have a latch here, and we have one up here. So we even have one here, right here, that we can put on the top. And during the summer, we have to use all of those because everything's out in the summer and everything wants to eat the chickens. So you can come up missing chickens really easy when animals get hungry. All right, so let's go check out another house. This is our old chicken house. This we bought off of a neighbor boy who built it, and when we were on another property. There's a place underneath they can get to in the summer. This is a 5.5 by 6 little building. There's like 2 feet underneath. They can get inside, and when we had the chickens, we had a door there. We closed it up every night. And then inside, I ended up building some boxes. I'll show you that. It's got quite a little overhang there, so they can come out and be out of the water and rain and weather if they needed to. But let me show you the other side. I put these doors down at the bottom of it so that I can get in there from this side as well if one of my animals are injured. So I can open this whole side up, take out all the hay, or the straw rather, and clean it out real easy, and then get to an animal if I needed to. And then I made these nesting boxes so I could just reach right in here from there, and so you can see all the way through. That was fairly simple to do. I do all this stuff myself. So we don't really have to worry about it now with the goats because nothing's gonna get in there and get them. But that's just another idea of a building. There's lots of different ways you can make a building for your animals. As long as it's got a good roof, which this one does, sturdy walls, and there's not gonna be any way a predator can get in and get them, then you're good. This little thing here is called a predator eye. And even now at night, it's solar, but at night this lights up. And this is about, 2.5 feet off the ground. So it's right at the level like a wolf would be at, or coyote or whatever, a predator, or a dog or whatever. So when something comes into the yard and they see that shining, they're gonna think it's an eye. They're not sure, like a raccoon. And it will deter them, and it does a pretty good job. I've had them for years, and you can get those on Amazon too. Real easy to find. Predator eye. All right, now feeders and waters. This is a feeder. Put your feet in there. You can hang this. It'll come out the bottom. This is a quail waterer. You can put marbles in there to keep them from drowning. This is a chick waterer. You can use these plastic tops, or you can actually use mason jars. So that's a quart mason jar, and that's a feeder. You just fill up the jar, put the lid on it while it's like this, and then turn it over real fast, and there you go. This is a gallon waterer for chickens. You want to make sure this little part here, that's where the water comes out. You want to make sure that it's always on the lowest part of your property. Don't make it so it's at, like, I'll show you. The water is right there, this little part there that comes out. Make sure it's not like this. It has to be like this, at least, if not level, because otherwise, if it's like this, it just keeps thinking it's not full because that water level doesn't reach it, so it just keeps coming out, and you're going to find your chickens without water really fast. Here is another one. It works on gravity. There's a gasket in there that helps that work. See if I can back up. I'll have to back up myself. Here's the old-fashioned kind. About fell. Here's the old-fashioned kind. That's like a 1.5 gallon, I think, water. And that is a 4 or 5 gallon water. This is a plastic gallon water. We've got them every size under the sun. You got this kind that have cups. I don't know if you can see it there. There you go. They have cups. There's a little yellow thing in there that the chicken hits and water will come out. There's these that we found. They are feeders. We got those at Rural King, and they have lids on them. And I told King, I said, we had one in the cart, and I said, grab 2 because they'll be gone fast. We've not seen them since. So I'm glad we grabbed 2 of them while we could. Then you also have this kind of water, which is what you often see at TSC, and they have the little nipples underneath, and the animal pushes up on those little silver parts into the red and toggles them back and forth, and water comes out. And those come in, I think they're like 3 gallon buckets, something like that. But There's lots of different kinds of feeders and waters. Just make sure that you place your waters and your feeders where your birds can reach them. Don't hang them up high like I have mine if you have chicks, because they're not going to be able to reach them. So, and as your chickens grow, you need to raise them. Also, you need to make sure that you have them on something that keeps all the bedding from getting in there, unless you're at home to check them all the time, so you can empty that out, because I'm telling you, with baby chicks, the bedding gets in there a lot. They're scratching and moving stuff around, and it gets filthy fast. And that's something else. Make sure you keep these vessels clean. Scrub the inside of them well. Make sure they're clean. These are clean. They're not nasty. They don't have like mold and whatever you call it. I don't know, that icky green stuff that gets in there. It's just gross. You don't want that. You don't want your birds eating that. You're eating their eggs, and you're probably going to eat their meat. You know, you don't want to be doing that. Would you serve that to your hubby? I'd like to some days, but I don't. Okay. All right. I'm going to list you, or read off this list of possible viruses, diseases that you can get, or your chickies can get. You have respiratory infection, fowl pox, botulism, fowl cholera, infectious bronchitis, infectious coryza, I think is how you say it, Coryza, coryza, Merck's disease, thrush, air sacs disease, Newcastle's disease, mushy chick, Pularium, avian influenza, and bumblefoot. I have had a chicken with bumblefoot. I don't know whether it stepped on something and it infected the foot and the foot all got big or whatever, but you need to get in there and get that stuff out, whatever's in that foot, sanitize the foot, clean it, take care of it for days. You have to soak it and make sure it's well. There's a lot of things you have to do when you take care of your animals properly. You better have a strong stomach. And if you have some that are born or hatched out that aren't quite right, you're going to have to kill it. You're going to have to cull it, which is what it's called, culling, to kill it. If you have a bird that gets attacked by an animal but it doesn't kill it all the way and it's pretty bad, you're probably going to have to cull it. You better have a tough stomach for this stuff. There's things that happen that are pretty gruesome on a homestead sometimes with animals and predators. You have to be ready for that stuff. There's not any room for a weak stomach, I'll tell you that. Okay, we went over the housing and the nesting boxes. I came inside because I was getting a little chilly and we decided to make something to eat. So, but we'll continue here. Nesting boxes is where I was. Nesting boxes, you need 3. Don't go buying a big old thing full of nesting boxes, those metal ones. Or you can get the single ones that you just put on the wall or whatever. You're never going to need that many unless you have so many birds, like a couple hundred birds or whatever. I think I've had 50 birds at a time. 65, I think it's 75, something like that was the highest I ever had. They use the same box if they can. So out of all those birds, I think we had 3 nesting boxes that they use consistently. They just always do. They lay in whatever box has another egg in it, or whatever their box has a chicken in it, because they're competitive. So that's what they do. That's just the way it's always been. So 3 is more than enough. I mean, you can get one of those pretty little ones that have 4 in them or whatever, but I'm telling you, you'll find out they'll be using just 1 or 2 at most. So that's something else. I did want to touch back on feed real quick. When you get your birds to where they're an adult and they're eating the 16%, I know you can buy scratch for them. And like I said, we give ours corn in the evening when it's cold out to help keep them warm through the evening. But really, scratch is kind of like a junk food for chickens. It has not a lot of nutritional value that they need. You'd be better off just feeding them some herbs or some kind of vegetables or whatever that you have scrap-wise. And that's another thing. Treats. Chickens love them. You can buy those worms, but they're kind of expensive for the most part. I don't do that. I feed my chickens all my scraps. Whatever vegetables I have that I am cooking in the house, I give them some of that. I give them herbs. I give them green beans. I give them bell peppers. I don't give them any citrus. They're not supposed to have avocados. And I think potato peelings, they're not supposed to have those either. But you can look that up online and find out what you are not supposed to feed your chickens. And it will tell you. No problem. I think there's a list of maybe not even 10 things that I know of. So, you know, but like I said, scratch, it's fun to watch them when you throw the scratch in there and they're scratching around, pecking at them or whatever. But put them out on the lawn. That's the best place for them. Get yourself one of those fences that are electric. You know, you can get them anywhere. You can get them at Rural King. And you just put them out, and ours isn't even charged. We just put it out there to keep them kind of grouped together so they aren't running all over the place. But they go out in the grass and they scratch and they look for bugs and worms, and they're happy little campers out there. It doesn't have to be that you have to charge that thing. You don't have to. But we always are here with our chickens when they're out as well. But I do want to say this. When predators are possible, when they are out, if you have an outside area that they're in, you need to make sure there's something that they can get under to hide from a hawk. Just anything. If there's a picnic table, if there's a couple folding chairs out there, you know, camping chairs, whatever, something out there. If you just throw a couple boards up against some concrete blocks, something they could get under and be protected so that that hawk can't get them. If you got a rooster, they usually warn them ahead of time that something's coming, and they all run for mercy, you know, to hide. But you have to put them here and there too. Don't make them like 50 feet out there away from your house, or, you know, far way out, so that it takes them quite a bit to get to it, because then they're going to get got. That hawk's going to get to them. So you have to put something here and there for them to get under so they can be safe, and enough room that they all can get under and hide, you know. A couple of them here, a couple there, but at least give them enough security out there so they don't get eaten by and taken away by a hawk. Molting. I want to cover that. Molting is when your chicken decides that it's going to get rid of its old feathers and produce new feathers. So the feathers will start coming out. They start getting naked looking like they're sick. Like they look so bad, it's unbelievable. You don't have to stress out. Usually this happens around when they're a year old, and it's natural. So there's nothing to worry about there. They will quit laying during this time. So they'll be looking sick, and you'll not be getting any eggs, and you'll stress out thinking something major is wrong. It's not. Generally, they're just molting. They go through this period. The new feathers will start coming in, and everything will be back to normal, no time flat. It takes probably a good month or two, you know. It depends on the chicken and the breed. But, like I said, some people try to hurry that along, and they'll give them cat food because it's high in protein. And usually, with a lot of protein, it speeds up the process. But I naturally just let mine go and do their thing, you know. But you do what's best for you. Read up on it and educate yourself, and then you can make a good decision. Alrighty, treats for chickens. As I said, you can hang a cabbage. You could hang a whole head of lettuce. You can hang carrots. You can hang any kind of vegetable. Sometimes fruit. They love strawberries. You can put them in net bags and hang them, and they pick at them. Or you can just, like, if you had one of those dog things that you like put into the ground, a corkscrew thing, you could put that down into a head of cabbage and then just hang it, and they love it. So, I mean, there's different ways to do things to give your chickens something to do so they're not bored, especially if they're pecking. If they're pecking each other, they're either too close to each other, they don't have enough room, they're bored, something's going on. So you need to check that out and figure out what it is, because there's a reason if they're pecking. If your chickens are stuck in a run and they don't get out ever, you need to make sure there's something for them to do. You can buy swings for them. You can make a swing for them. You could hang a hula hoop. They love that. They'll just jump on it and swing. Have a little stump in there they can jump onto. Have corner perches so they can get up there and perch. You know, just do different things. Make something. It doesn't really matter what it is, just so that they have something to do. Something new to do, something new to jump on, something. You know, hang some herbs, they can peck at them, whatever, just something. Just make it at least so that they're not just in this little run all the time with nothing to do and bored out of their mind, and then they do find ways to aggravate each other and pick on each other. Okay, herbs for your chickens. I'm going to tell you a whole bunch of herbs that are good for your chickens, and then I'll tell you a few of the things, few of these herbs, what they're good for. I will tell you right now, you can use leaves from flowers, herbs, leaves, and roots. They help with parasites and mites and other pests. You can throw them in their dust baths, which that's something else. A chicken needs a dust bath, a place that they can have a dust bath. A dust bath is basically where a chicken will get down and waller around in really super fine dirt or like sand, and that helps kill parasites that are on the body or keep lice away and stuff like that. It helps keep them healthy. It helps keep their feathers and their skin healthy. Anyway, let's see. You can make a dust bath by just throwing a tire in there and throwing some really fine dirt in there with some sand in it or whatever. Or just make sure that they have a place that they can dig down a little bit, and they'll all get in there and roll around. It's funny to watch them. It's totally a good. I love watching chickens. There's so much entertainment. It's crazy. But herbs, you can use yarrow, oregano, thyme, lemon balm, comfrey, rosemary, plantain leaf, sage, bee balm, spearmint, peppermint, calendula, marigold, parsley, garlic, nasturtiums, chamomile, basil, dill, fennel, stinging nettles. All of these have purpose with your hens. The chamomile makes your yolks more yellow. If you want a deeper and richer color, you can use parsley and marigold. Nasturtiums and garlic increases blood circulation and the blood vessel development. There's rosemary even. I don't know if I said rosemary. But some of these help kill parasites and keep parasites down and mites and lice. So, I mean, it's a very good thing to have herbs. I try to plant my herb garden right next to the chicken house. That way, I can just throw some in there in their nesting boxes even. They love that. Totally love that. Okay, well, now it's raining outside, so I guess I'm going to do the rest of it right here. All right, and I think I misspoke. I said that banties are a third of the size. They're actually a fifth of the size of a regular chicken. So, I love banties. And also, a banty has no larger standard breed of the same kind. So like a silkie, there's no larger standard breed of silkie. It's only a banty form. So millefleur, the same way. I love millefleurs too. All right, another thing I wanted to address was the fertilization of eggs and having a rooster on hand. You're not going to have fertile eggs if you don't have a rooster. But with a rooster also comes sometimes a problem. I love our roosters. We have really nice roosters. We've always had like a Welsummer rooster or a Marron rooster, which they are sweet. Right now, we don't have any roosters because our last rooster passed away for some reason. We don't know what happened. Just went out there in the morning and he was gone. So, but anyway, when you have a rooster, sometimes they pick a couple hens that are their favorites, and they mate with them a lot. So when a rooster mates with a hen, they jump on their back, they take their claws and they claw into the side of them, and they'll often take their beak and grab a hold of the feathers around the neck of the hen and hang on to her and do their thing. Well, when that's done several times a day, after a while, that hen starts looking a little shabby. They also can draw blood on them, and all their feathers end up missing there on the sides of them, and they look pretty bad. So they need a little protection, and sometimes that comes in the way of what they call a chicken saddle, like this. Here's another one, a different color. I've made so many of these, it's crazy. This goes on the neck part. This goes on the back part of the chicken, on its back, and you take these and you put the wing through it. So the wing's sticking out, and then it stays on the back of the chicken like that. So then when the rooster climbs on, he can't hurt the chicken like he normally does. So it's supposed to protect them some. So you can make those really easy. You can get a pattern online, super easy. You can even buy them online. I think you can buy them on Amazon even. So eBay, you can buy them on eBay, but you can make them so much cheaper. It's so easy to do. But that's another thing, you know, you might want to make sure you're aware of, is if one of your hens starts getting, you know, a little bit overmated, that you can help her out. You might have to separate the rooster even a little bit for a while and give her a break. All right. Now, banding birds. You can also band birds for identification purposes. You can buy bands that you can just slip right on their ankles. They could be colored bands, different colors. If you want, like 2020, all those chickens that were born that year, to be green, you can put all green bands on them. If you want them to be numbered and bands on there for identification of your homestead or farm, you can do that. If you want to use them for breeding purposes, you know, this bird bred with that bird, and this is what we're doing if you're trying to breed for some certain standard of perfection or whatever to meet all those qualifications, you know, you can use them for those purposes. Let's see what else we got here. Transportation of chickens. If you're going to transport chickens, especially if it's in the summer, you need to make sure you don't cram them all in some kind of a crate or something, and you need to make sure that they get water fairly often. They can't go without water. Chickens don't do well in the heat. They just don't. If it gets really super hot, you need to do something to help them in the summer, especially. So, what we do is we get the big feeder pans. They're like, I don't know, the metal feeder pans, and we put water in them. We also get an ice cream bucket and we put it in the freezer and freeze it and make an ice block and set it down in there, and they love it. Believe it or not, they do. Some of them will jump right on top of it. But we always make sure there are several pans of water that they can actually get into. They're larger. They can get, we've had chickens get in there and sit down into it, trying to cool it off. You can do a sprinkler and they'll do that. They'll get in there. You can do fans and help with fans if you have an enclosed run. Just to have a breeze going real nice would be nice, you know, for them. But they don't do well when it gets really super hot, and they need to cool down too. So you need to think about those things as well. Having an animal is kind of like, you know, having a child. You're responsible for that animal, and you have to make sure it's healthy and happy and it can thrive. So you have to do what you need to do to make that happen. Okay, let's see what else is on the list here. We got everything, I think. Yeah, we've got everything. I think we did it. So I'll probably think of more stuff. I usually do after the fact, but at least that's a good place to start. Now what you need to do is figure out what kind of chicken you want. Do you want an egg bird? Do you want a meat bird? Do you want a dual purpose bird, which means eggs and meat you can get from this bird? You can have eggs from it for a while, but once you get the meat, you're not going to get eggs anymore. I hate to break that one to you. Do you want banties? Do you want a sex-linked chicken, which is a chicken that's been bred for laying eggs? I mean, that's what they're good for, laying eggs. There's heritage breeds, which are breeds that have been around forever. There are all kinds of different, you can get good foragers, like I said. You can do heavy breed birds. You can do, if you're a person that likes the birds that have the feathers all the way down the legs, you can find birds for that. There's Brahmas for that. There's Cochins are great birds for that. They're a heavy bird. They kind of look like a big fat snowball when you get them and they're white. But the males, again, can be a little bit aggressive. It just depends. You need to read on your bird types what you think you might want, what kind of bird would be best for your property, whether you're going to let them forage out on their own, or if you're going to keep them in a run, you know, an enclosed run, or if they're going to be doing both. You need to think about all of those things. The best thing I can tell you to do would be get a book. And if you start with stories, books on chickens, stories book on chickens. They have a stories book on rabbits. They have a story, you name it, they got it. It's a really good book to start with. There's also a book, I don't really remember what it's called, but it covers the whole gamut of animals that you could have on a farm. You know, whether it's turkeys, chickens, pigs, ducks, whatever, it's in there. Goats, sheep, it's all in there. That's another really good book to buy. You'll know it when you see it. But either way you go, if you just get on the internet and read, you have to educate yourself. So get that done and make sure you have a tough stomach. When the comes time that you have to cull a bird, or if you're even going to process your birds for meat, you know, you're going to have to do that. So you might need some equipment to do that. And The way that you do processing birds is you have a big vat of water that's very hot and it scalds the birds so that the feathers come off easily, and then you put them into a plucker, which is a vessel that is electric, and usually you run water over the top of it. Put the bird in there and it spins around and it has these rubber fingers on the inside of it, and that takes the feathers off of it. But you can do it all by hand. It just takes a little bit more time. But if you have a bunch of friends come over, set up a station, a couple tables, and get everybody doing a certain job, you can whip right through that really fast. You know, you do what makes it work for you. You don't have to have all the equipment and spend a bunch of money to raise meat birds. You don't. You also don't have to spend a bunch of money to have a pretty good little egg selling operation. And here in our state, as long as you're selling your eggs from your property, you don't have to have a license. So check out those things too. You know, check out what your state allows and, you know, for whatever purpose you want your chickens for, you know. Just do your homework. Get a book. Start reading. Figure it out. You're responsible for those animals and need to make sure that they stay healthy and happy because their lives are in your hands. So do your homework. Be educated. And good luck with your chicks. Bye-bye.